Hi, everybody. Carl Freund here with Cambrian-AI Research again. Today, I've got Krishna Rangasayee, who's the founder and CEO of Sima.ai. Sima got quite a bit of attention with some recent benchmarks and is aiming to become the darling of Silicon Valley for Edge AI. Welcome aboard, Krishna. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Carl. I appreciate it.
I'm looking forward to the conversation. So, since the beginning of compute, everybody, the pendulum keeps swinging back and forth. It's all centralized on mainframes and then decentralized. And then Unix servers came along and it became decentralized. What's really driving the interest in Edge AI in the cloud? What's really driving that from a business standpoint?
That's a great question, Carl. And so I think the last 10, 15 years, clearly, I think AI has really been the big driver towards the computing trend, right? AI has really been the application that's driven compute. And it's really been a cloud persona for the last 10, 15 years. It continues to be, and it'll continue to really have a lot of cloud-oriented presence. But there are many applications in the physical world that cannot entirely rely on a cloud-based experience. And I think three things come in the way of it, and it's increasingly pronounced in terms of a transition into a hybrid structure where things that remain on the cloud will continue to remain on the cloud, but there's increasingly more of an opportunity or a need for things to remain at the edge. And in my mind, three things drive that. One is throughput and latency. Not every particularly physical application can afford the latency and the opportunity to connect to the cloud. An automotive application where decisions need to be done, which are safety critical, and the throughput and latency are mission critical for the passengers or the driver, right? Or a robotics application where there's a human machine interface, where the latency and the opportunity to engage with the cloud really is not an opportunity at all, right? And so that's one element of it, which is really around throughput, latency, that really guides choice of edge compute versus cloud compute. Another rationale, which I think is increasingly becoming complicated, particularly with AI and ML, is privacy and security. So I think we have, for right or for wrong, gotten very comfortable throwing all of our personal information on the cloud and really assume that it's all in a great place, it's all metadata and such. But obviously, I'm throwing ChatGPT now in the mix of it. There's now a heightened sensitivity to privacy and security. And people are looking at, can I really get the benefit of AI and ML without having to publicly share my information on the cloud? Would I be able to really do localized processing where the creator of the data can really do the compute and the analysis where the data resides versus really throwing it around, right? So the second key trend that's really happening, and this is true in medical, true in smart vision applications, privacy around smart retail applications where they don't need to really information sharing beyond the local premises. The third element is obviously cost. And cloud is not a very cheap proposition. And it's a pretty expensive proposition for many, many different customers. And throw in the scale of where now AI and ML is going to be embedded in every single thing in the planet. So today, even at the edge, if you will, microprocessors and microcontrollers are $40 billion in annual consumption, right? It's a huge number. And all of that is essentially classic compute. 99.9% of it is classic compute. And over the decade, or maybe even 2 decades, 99% of that is going to move from classic compute to ML. And so concerns on throughput, latency, privacy, security, and cost are really going to shift, if you will, a meaningful portion of our compute into an edge-focused era. And
how much would be on the edge, let's say, in 5 years, do you think? How fast and how?
I would say at least 10 to 20%, right? And so the edge market moves much slower, and it's also tens of thousands of customers. So you're really boiling the ocean in terms of market adoption. But that's a very big number if you really look at the scale of it. And in my mind, one day the physical world, quote unquote, the edge, is probably going to be bigger than the cloud, right? And so that journey is really ahead of us, and it's the next decade. And also will probably drive a lot of architectural innovation in people doing purpose-built platforms for the edge. And so far the journey has been the cloud. And that's kind of been the AI and the cloud story. But I think there's an emergence of an AI and edge story that I think is ahead of us.
Interesting. So other companies are going after this as well. Qualcomm, for example, and Apple with their silicon design. What is it really differentiates Sima in that? It's not, can't be a crowded market. It's not much of a market right now other than handsets.
That's right.
But as that market evolves, how do you plan to differentiate?
Absolutely. So one of the key things that we want to do, and this goes back to my previous company. So I was at Xilinx for a long time. And Xilinx, if you will, was a fantastic learning ground for me in terms of the embedded edge market. Tens of thousands of customers solving for really problems at the edge. And that learning really shaped my thinking of, from a market perspective, the nuances of what we really need to do to win here. And I would say one thing I should clarify before I give you a direct answer to your question is we are not focused on the cloud. That's clear. We're also not focused on the smartphone market. It's a very, very tough market, and we didn't want to be a startup focused on either of the two massive markets. And it's really, I think, the middle, everything in between that we're really focused on. So robotics, smart retail, smart vision systems, medical, and now automotive are really our focuses. So what are we doing different? I think the biggest learning that I learned was that ML is really not a product. ML is really a capability. And I see company after company build an ML accelerator and assume that that's a product. We are in the business of solving application problems or system problems. ML is a fantastic toolkit because you get better TCO, better performance, better power, all the benefits. But ML to us is really a toolkit we want to provide to our customers. So our offering is a machine learning SoC. So that's very differentiated in what we're providing. Is it's a heterogeneous compute platform. Something should remain in classic compute, and ML is not a cure-all for everything. ML is really wonderful for solving a few problems. And so what we're offering is a machine learning SoC experience and kind of creating a new product category in that. And so that's one large differentiation in what we're doing. The second one is we think of ourselves more as a software company building a silicon than really a silicon company. And ML is fundamentally a software experience.
That's a smart move. I mean, after all, I mean, NVIDIA says they've got more than twice the software engineers they have hardware engineers.
And I give NVIDIA a lot of credit for recognizing that this is really a software experience. And absolutely, and in my mind, part of the reason why they're commercially this successful is their software experience is phenomenal, right? And they've obviously doubled down on it. They took early risk on it. They were first mover, and they've derived the benefit of it. From our perspective, I think we have from day one really focused on software. And though we are a young company, many of our customers really, really admire us for our software experience. And we are given this a lot of thought. No doubts, from our perspective, the NVIDIA experience is more shaped for the cloud. From our perspective, we are purpose-built for the edge. And so we not only provide an ML experience, that's software that's world-class, we also provide an SoC experience along with it. So people could do end-to-end applications on our product. And that's a more complicated story than just building an ML model, right? And so to us, ML is a necessary thing that we need to do a good job. Sufficient thing for us is the entire SoC experience. So we have paid a lot of attention to it. And even at this earliest stage, all of our customers validate that our software is way ahead of anybody else. And so that's another large competitive advantage. And I think hiding behind silicon advantages is pretty hard. Software is a more defensible strategy in where we look to. The third thing is no doubts from a frames per second per watt, which is really at the end of the day, a large technical merit for TCO and better experience and better performance and better power are strategic advantages. We are definitely way better than anybody else as it comes to application end-to-end performance. So those would be the three pillars and where we have differentiated, right? And I have no doubts we're going to get a lot of new participants and big companies now jumping into the AI story, particularly at the edge, because that's the next growth vector in my mind. But we obviously have our strengths, and we plan to win with continuing to fortify our strengths.
Interesting. So when I first heard about what you guys are doing, I was very interested in your SoC approach. So can you talk about the software stack required to support, because you're really providing the entire platform for the application. as opposed to
Absolutely.
many people which say, here's the AI portion I can accelerate,
That's
use
right.
whatever CPU you want. How does that affect the software development environment?
Absolutely. And so I would say in some ways, it wasn't rocket science in what we needed to go do. And I'll start with the known. I mean, the $40 billion that's consumed on an annual basis today is a known market. People have been shipping SoCs for 30, 40 years, right? So it's not a new experience. But ML is the new entrant. And ML is a new variable. And so many of the incumbents really don't know how to enable an ML experience. We obviously have the benefit of a purpose-built platform. What we decided to do was really innovate where it matters and leverage everything that's open source. So our philosophy has really been an open source platform from day one. So everything on the ARM processor subsystem is a huge ecosystem, a huge software code base, and a lot of work that's been done phenomenally led by ARM and now a lot of developers around the planet. And so we said, let's just go with ARM. Let's just take advantage of the software experience they're going to provide. Similarly, on computer vision, we partnered with Synopsys for their computer vision pipeline. So we leveraged their software footprint and where they looked, right? And from an ML perspective, we took a very unique approach in that since we have 10,000 customers one day that we want to service, our software front end has to really be capable of taking any computer vision problem. We cannot be myopically focused on one or two customers. So we leveraged a TVM infrastructure, Tensor Virtual Machine Infrastructure. And today we are the first company to be able to support any ML framework, any sensor, any resolution, and really create a very wide funnel in what we could go support, right? So from ARM and from computer vision perspective, it was leverage. And from an ML perspective, we architected an area where our software front end is flexible. Then our innovation was, how do we bring all of this experience in a holistic perspective? So we have a very unique Docker container-based approach. Really is a software persona where you could do ML model development, you could do application model development, and deploy all on a single software package. So, I mean, we have taken it to heart that we really, really need to want to solve the customer experience in that they should push a button, they should get a wow. And everything in the middle that happens, nobody should understand, right? And so my very first job when I started the company was really that, this push button, wow. What happens in the middle, the less people know, the better, right?
Yeah.
And so there is no kudos in exposing layer by layer optimization. Let's do this, let's do that. Unlike the cloud, many of our customers really are challenged in having internal ML talent. They want the ML experience, but not the learning curve, right? And so that's really at the core of what we really decided to do. And one day, I think we'll be well known for our software approach, right? And if we do our job right.
Right. Interesting. So what are the key challenges in doing this? Obviously, you're picking up some world-class technology from Synopsys, and you're picking up TVM, you're picking up ARM, and you're integrating that into an SoC kind of best of breed of various components. So what challenges do you see remaining that you believe Sima is well positioned to solve?
No, it's a great question. I think when we started the journey, it was really hard because we're bringing in so many disparate facets and elements of technology into our company, right? So we need ML competency, we need compiler competency, we need SoC competency, we need firmware competency. And so, I mean, it's not easy bringing this all together. And obviously, we're not 10,000 people, we're only 150 people, right? And so how do we find these amazing 10x software engineers that are willing to do all of this in a constrained environment? Was really been a challenge. But I think in hindsight, we have built some of the best software people in the industry. And it's an interesting team that actually does not want me to add more people to it because they're doing all the cool bits and they don't want a dilution of all the coolness that they get, right? So it's only 75, 80 software engineers that we have, but they've done an incredibly good job and continue to do a really good job, right? So that's been the challenge looking behind. Looking forward, I think scalability is our big issue. And I think it's the industry's largest issue is that you could get away with hand optimizing a few things for 1Z, 2Z customers. but this is 10,000 customers you need to support. You need to provide a software platform that scales and spans for everybody. So we have problems all the way from data sets to creation of models, to accuracy, to getting the performance and power. And then once you're done at the ML story, then really getting in the application story, where the customer gets the end-to-end frames per second, frames per second per watt experience that they desire. So our journey is not over. And I think, as somebody famously joked, being in the ML industry is that it's a perennially difficult problem, in that your job is never going to go away, and that you're going to always have new challenges to deal with. So I would say we have created a really good world-class foundation and platform. Scalability and ensuring that we continue to raise the ease of use paradigm will remain our largest challenge.
So do you think, how do you view the explosion of large language models? Because you're not particularly well suited for running on small devices, right? Memory constraints, power constraints, computational constraints, and you're very focused on image processing markets. That's your strength, and you've got the Synopsys IP in there that can do some pretty impressive performance results at low power. Are you worried that large language models will just obviate the need for image processing?
No,
you lose sleep over that?
Yeah, no, I lose sleep over a lot of different things, Carl. And so I would say 2 or 3 things. One is, I absolutely believe that if you take a step back, generative AI is really going to touch every facet of the planet. And it's obviously making a big impact in the cloud today. But I do believe that elements of generative AI, large language models, or transformers are just here to stay. And I also think that the journey isn't ended yet. It's still starting. So change is going to be a constant thing in where we go look to. But what I think we haven't publicly shared is, and we are excited about, is that I think, in my mind, the generative AI application use cases are now beginning to evolve at the edge as well. So I don't think it's one versus the other, it's one with the other. So I think you're going to see a coexistence of classic CNN-based computer vision, along with LLM elements, along with generative AI elements, along with vision transformer elements, because in reality, the benefit is these models obviously are very large, but they bring in great accuracy. They get greater benefits. And people are going to be very creative in solving for cost, solving for performance, solving for power, while enabling these capabilities. We haven't gone public with our announcements on what we're doing Gen 2 yet. And I would say stay posted and stay close with us. And we have some pretty exciting things that we'll be talking about very soon on our Gen 2 and what we'll be doing in this space.
Christian, that sounds very enticing. Can't wait to see what you guys do. I was very impressed with your first generation SoC, and anxious to see what I can imagine some stuff, but let's not speculate here for the audience. Can you talk about what we should expect from Sima.ai in the next 6-12 months? What's next? What's on the horizon in terms of customers, and what type of customers, industries where you expect to have traction that you're able to talk about publicly?
Yeah. So Gen 1 to us, I think we just recently announced we are now in full production. And it's really a wonderful milestone for our baby company, in that A0 silicon went to production with no bugs. Our boards are in production. Our software is now in production. It's a good milestone. And we are now getting into a journey. Now it's all about customer acquisition and scaling for revenue. So that's our Gen 1 focus. The early adopters of our technology have been in robotics, have been in industrial automation, in smart vision, smart retail applications, and also surprisingly in the government sector. I mean, I would have never placed the government sector as a lead adopter of AI and ML, but we are really seeing them lean in, and we expect to see revenue from these various markets over 2023 and 2024. So that's from a Gen 1 perspective. Gen 2, I think we are imminently going to be taping out towards the second half of the year, our Gen 2 product. And in my mind, I think we are now raising the bar on what we could be solving for as a company. Gen 1, we took a vision and computer vision as a problem statement. That will remain a core element of where we are. And now we are extending our roadmap to include in for generative AI elements and other exciting portions of where I think market developments are. And the other focus for us too is really getting into automotive. So we wanted to prove out our technology in the embedded edge market. And once the technology is proven, then take on what's, in my mind, not only just ruggedization from an ASIL-B and an ASIL compliance for automotive, but there are also certain features that are needed to be successful in automotive. So just take a step back. I think it's commercial success on Gen 1. That's our top of mind for us. And we're really excited with the number of customers. And we engage with 50 plus customers globally and really excited with how they see us. And it's been a long time coming for a new architecture to come win in this market space. So they're pretty excited. And Gen 2, no doubts we're bringing in new capability, but we'll also continue to improve our software story every month. So that's really exciting. And the benefit of solving some problems is you get new ones. And so that'll perennially keep us busy and focused on really doing a good job.
Well, good. Well, congratulations on your Gen 1 going to general availability. I'm sure your sales team is 50 customers. That's pretty large set for your first SoC. So I wish you all the luck and success with those customers, and really appreciate your time today, and look forward to doing this again soon. Maybe when you're talking about Gen 2, we can get you back on board.
Absolutely. Look forward to it. Thank you again, and really appreciate your time as well.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.